Have you ever stepped into a room where everyone seemed to forget you existed? Imagine a busy hospital lobby where every glance, every whisper was a silent message. You don't belong here. This isn't a scene from a movie. It's the real-life story of Nina Abbott, a woman whose quiet determination shattered every assumption held by those around her. Nina's day began like any other, but the moment she pushed through the hospital doors, an unsettling energy filled the air. The receptionist, a middle-aged woman with a clipped routine, barely registered her presence as Nina approached the front desk. Her eyes, fixed on a computer screen, never met Nina's. Even the nurse passing by gave a quick, dismissive nod before returning to her duties. It was as if Nina was invisible, a mistake that would soon prove fatal for their outdated beliefs. Almost immediately, whispers spread like wildfire. Some murmured that she was just another visitor. Others speculated she must be lost. But those assumptions were about to be completely upended. A few minutes into the morning rush, a reserved figure at the far end of the reception area stood up and slowly walked toward the desk. Although his face was calm, his eyes betrayed a hint of uncertainty. His presence was a silent challenge to the norm, a signal that not all in that room were content with the status quo. Nina, however, had already noticed every detail. The quick dismissals, the sideways glances, and the barely concealed impatience of the hospital staff sparked something deep inside her. It reminded her of countless moments from her past when people had underestimated her because of who she was. As she moved through the lobby, every step echoed with a purpose that went beyond just arriving at work. She was here not merely as a patient or a visitor, but to claim a role that many never expected her to fill. This moment isn't just about a woman entering a building, it's a clash between expectation and reality. Scientific studies in social psychology have long shown that when individuals are ignored or dismissed, it can trigger a self-fulfilling prophecy where their abilities are undervalued. In a sense, the hospital staff were trapped in their own minds, unaware that their actions were about to be met with a powerful force of change. Researchers have found that even subtle cues, like a delayed acknowledgement, can influence how people perform under pressure. Yet, here was Nina, who refused to let these cues define her worth or her future. As the minutes ticked by, the tension slowly built. Nina's expression remained calm and resolute, even as a silent storm brewed among the staff. Questions began to form among those watching. Who was she really? Why did she have such an unyielding calm? And most importantly, what was she about to do that would force them to re-examine every assumption they had made about her? There was a particular moment, a small, almost imperceptible pause, when Nina's eyes met those of the uncertain figure from the reception area. In that brief exchange, an unspoken promise passed between them. Change was coming, and it was inevitable. The room, filled with routine and indifference, was on the cusp of a revelation that would upend its very foundation. Even as some staff members tried to dismiss the growing unrest as mere overreaction, others felt a spark of recognition. It was as if the very fabric of the hospital, woven with years of habit and tradition, was beginning to unravel. In that instant, every mind in the room was left with one burning question. What would happen when the unseen force behind this calm exterior finally revealed its true strength? And so, with the morning unfolding and an undercurrent of anticipation building, the stage was set for a transformation that no one could have predicted. Stay tuned, because what happens next is bound to challenge everything you thought you knew about respect, authority, and the power of quiet determination. The air shifted as whispers turned into murmurs of disbelief. Within minutes, Nina moved purposefully through the corridors, her presence commanding attention. The same staff who had barely acknowledged her now exchanged uncertain glances. It wasn't just about a woman walking through a hospital. It was a confrontation with everything they had taken for granted. In a quiet hallway, a group of administrators huddled, their conversation halting when Nina passed by. Even those who had dismissed her earlier couldn't ignore the fact that her calm defiance was laced with authority. Behind closed doors, theories began circulating. Was she really here for a routine visit, or was there something more? A clinical psychologist once explained that when people witness someone defy stereotypes, their minds scramble to reconcile the unexpected behavior with long-held beliefs. Today, that phenomenon was unfolding in real time. Minutes later, Nina entered a conference room where a key meeting was about to start. The room, filled with staff members who had once taken pride in their routine efficiency, now buzzed with a new electric tension. Eyes widened as she stood at the front, her posture relaxed but unwavering. The silence that followed wasn't out of politeness. It was the collective pause before a storm. A subtle twist of fate emerged when an unexpected figure joined the room. A seasoned administrator known for his methodical approach to hospital operations. His name was Amir Torres, and he had seen enough to know that change, though often resisted, could lead to progress. His presence signaled that even among those accustomed to the status quo, there was an undercurrent of hope. Amir's thoughtful gaze seemed to question, could this quiet force be the catalyst the hospital needed? For several minutes, the room held its breath as Nina's eyes swept over her colleagues. In that charged moment, every person present faced an internal reckoning. Scientific research suggests that unexpected leadership, especially from those who have been underestimated, can dismantle deeply ingrained biases. Yet, these revelations often come with a personal cost, a cost measured in the vulnerability of admitting one's own error. Then, with measured resolve, Nina began to speak. She addressed the room not with anger, but with a firm clarity that left no room for doubt. Her words sliced through the tension, each sentence a reminder that respect was not earned by routine, but by action and integrity. The staff listened intently as she outlined her vision, a commitment to fairness, a mandate to re-examine every assumption, and a promise that from that day forward, every patient, regardless of their background, would be treated with the dignity they deserved. As she spoke, a fresh question simmered in the minds of her listeners. How would they respond when faced with the undeniable truth of their own biases? And more importantly, how would they change in the face of a leader who demanded nothing less than excellence and respect from every corner of the institution? With each word, the atmosphere grew heavier, with the realization that this meeting wasn't just about hospital policies. It was a turning point in the culture of the entire institution. The staff, once complacent in their routines, now found themselves on the brink of a transformation that challenged every preconceived notion they held. In that moment, the hospital was no longer just a building. It was a battleground for the soul of an institution, where every decision could either reinforce old prejudices or pave the way for a future built on genuine equality. And as Nina's steady voice filled the room, it was clear that the journey toward change had only just begun. As the day unfolded, the hospital began to feel like a living, breathing entity on the edge of change. Nina's decisive words still echoed in every corner of the building. In hallways once dominated by routine indifference, subtle shifts emerged. Nurses and doctors exchanged looks of uncertainty and anticipation. Even the most seasoned administrators began questioning if their established ways were still valid. Not long after the meeting, an unexpected incident sparked a wave of introspection. In one of the smaller wards, a young patient, whose fear of hospitals was well known, received care from a team that had recently undergone Nina's new protocols. The gentle, respectful treatment this patient received contrasted starkly with stories of neglect and condescension that had circulated for years. It was a vivid reminder that science confirms the simple fact: when people feel valued, their recovery and overall well-being improve significantly. Studies in medical care show that patient outcomes are linked to the warmth and attention they receive, a concept that Nina had been determined to bring to life in every interaction. In another corner of the hospital, whispers of resistance grew louder. A senior technician, known for his adherence to old methods, started questioning the efficacy of these sudden changes. How could a system that had functioned for decades be overhauled in just one day? His doubts weren't unfounded. Decades of habit and institutional inertia had built walls that were hard to tear down. Yet, every question raised only added fuel to the fire of transformation. Was it possible that these long-held practices were not as effective as once believed? As these questions echoed through the corridors, another twist emerged. In an unexpected meeting between a small group of staff members, a revelation surfaced about the hospital's own history. It turned out that the institution had once been a pioneer in patient-centered care, a fact long buried under layers of bureaucracy and indifference. This historical insight created an open loop, Could a return to those roots, combined with Nina's fresh vision, rebuild the hospital's reputation? The idea was both thrilling and daunting, sparking heated debates and cautious optimism among the staff. Meanwhile, Nina herself was quietly gathering data. She spent hours reviewing patient reports, comparing them with academic studies, and even consulting with experts in behavioral science. Her goal was clear: to build a solid case for why the new changes were not only ethical, but scientifically proven to enhance patient care. Every statistic, every study she uncovered reinforced her belief that respect and empathy were powerful tools in healing. And with each piece of evidence, she was preparing to confront those who still clung to outdated practices. Yet, just as the hospital staff began to lean toward this new perspective, a surprising setback jolted the momentum. A miscommunication in one of the emergency departments led to a minor but very public mishap. For a few tense minutes, the entire hospital seemed to hold its breath. Could this mistake undermine the progress that had been made? It was a critical moment, a cliffhanger that left everyone wondering if the new protocols could withstand the pressures of real-life emergencies. In that moment of uncertainty, questions piled up. Would the incident force a rollback to the old ways, or would it serve as a catalyst for even more rigorous change? And most importantly, could Nina's relentless pursuit of equality and care turn this challenge into another stepping stone for progress? The answers were far from clear, but one thing was certain: nothing in the hospital would ever be the same again. As the tension built and every staff member grappled with their own role in the unfolding drama, the hospital stood at a crossroads. The incident was not just a minor blip, it was a test of the system's resilience and a measure of how deeply the seeds of change had been sown. The outcome remained uncertain, leaving everyone to wonder if this was the turning point, or merely a pause before an even greater transformation. In the days following the emergency mishap, the hospital buzzed with uncertainty and tension. Every corner of the building seemed to hold a question. Could Nina's vision survive a real crisis? Staff members, once confident in their roles, now found themselves forced to confront long-standing practices. During a routine morning round, an incident in the emergency department became the spark that ignited a full-blown confrontation. A mix-up in patient records, combined with a rushed decision, led to a near miss that put a patient's life at risk. The mistake, though quickly corrected, sent shockwaves through the hospital. Nurses, doctors, and administrators gathered in urgent meetings to discuss what had gone wrong. The atmosphere was charged with tension, and every person present felt the weight of the hospital's reputation on their shoulders. Nina, having spent nights poring over data and scientific studies that linked patient care with clear, respectful communication, immediately stepped in. She demanded a transparent review of the incident, emphasizing that every error, no matter how small, was a chance to learn and improve. Her tone was calm but firm, and she left no room for excuses. Here was a leader who believed that real change was built on accountability and learning from mistakes. At this moment, an unexpected twist unfolded. A trusted senior doctor who had long resisted Nina's new protocols revealed that the mishap was not an isolated error. He disclosed evidence suggesting that similar issues had occurred over the past year, hidden behind layers of bureaucracy. His revelation sent ripples through the group. It wasn't just a mistake, it was a symptom of deeper, systemic neglect. This shocking admission forced everyone to face the uncomfortable truth. The old ways were failing patients, and clinging to outdated methods could cost lives. Scientific research supports the idea that environments where feedback is openly shared and mistakes are examined lead to better performance. Nina cited studies that showed hospitals embracing transparency and continuous improvement achieved lower error rates and improved patient outcomes. Her words resonated in the room, sparking a mix of relief and dread. Could these changes be the key to healing a broken system, or would the scars of past negligence prove too deep to mend? As the debate grew intense, Nina introduced a new initiative, a task force to address systemic issues with real-time monitoring and regular staff training. The plan was ambitious, but it offered hope that the hospital could truly transform into a place where every patient received the care they deserved. Yet, even as she outlined her vision, the staff's faces betrayed a mix of skepticism and fear. Change, especially when it unearths painful truths, is never easy. Every person in the room now faced a crucial choice: cling to the comfort of familiar routines or embrace a future where accountability and respect reigned supreme. As the meeting drew to a close, a heavy silence fell over the room. In that silence, the unresolved questions loomed large. Would the task force be enough to mend the fractures within the hospital? Could the staff truly let go of their old ways to embrace a new era of care? And most importantly, would the change that Nana had fought so hard for be enough to protect the very lives entrusted to them? The confrontation ended without clear answers, leaving everyone in a state of anxious anticipation. The hospital, once a symbol of routine indifference, now trembled on the edge of a revolution that could redefine its future. The aftermath of the confrontation left the hospital in a state of cautious hope. Over the following days, every corridor seemed to buzz with the possibility of change. Nina's task force sprang into action, and slowly, the hospital began to reshape its identity. Staff members, once bound by old habits, started embracing the new protocols with a mix of determination and humility. One afternoon, as the golden light streamed through the windows, a breakthrough occurred. In the emergency department, where once tension reigned, a team successfully navigated a complex case by communicating clearly and checking every detail. The result was a flawless operation that saved a patient's life, a success that was not just about medical expertise, but about a commitment to treating every individual with dignity. The achievement was supported by studies that confirm respectful communication improves team performance and patient outcomes. At that moment, a palpable shift swept through the hospital. Even those who had resisted the changes found themselves nodding in quiet acknowledgement. It was as if the walls of indifference were finally crumbling, replaced by a culture of accountability and care. Nina's steady presence reminded everyone that change wasn't about blame, but about growth. A lesson learned from each error and every improvement. Later that week, in a quiet moment before the end of the day, Nina stood alone in the now bustling lobby. Looking around, she saw familiar faces that had transformed from skeptics into allies. The receptionist, who once barely acknowledged her, now greeted patients with genuine warmth. The nurse, whose dismissive smile had given way to genuine concern, moved with a sense of purpose. Even the security officer, who had doubted her from the start, now worked diligently, aware of the responsibility he carried. In that reflective silence, Nina recalled every moment of doubt, every instance of being overlooked and underestimated. But today was different. Today was proof that resilience, backed by science and heartfelt commitment, could overcome even the deepest-seated biases. The hospital had become a testament to the power of change, a place where respect was not optional but a fundamental right. The story of the hospital was more than just a change in procedures. It was a powerful reminder that every individual deserves to be seen and valued. As Nina prepared to leave for the day, she took one last look around, feeling a profound connection to every soul who had walked through those doors. Her journey had not only reshaped an institution, but also lit a spark in the hearts of those who believed that even in a place of routine, change could come with quiet strength. This transformation leaves us with a final thought. True leadership isn't about authority or titles. It's about challenging the status quo, embracing vulnerability, and inspiring others to see the value in every human life. The hospital, once a place of indifferent routine, had become a beacon of hope and respect, a living proof that change is not only possible but essential.